lot from being a Democratic First Lady in a Republican administration. You talk about learning to deal with people on both sides of the aisle. What did you learn during your years here in Sacramento that you think could be exported to policymakers elsewhere?
Well, I think first and foremost, I learned that the other party is not the enemy. I think many people come into public life and campaigns really hating the other side. Maybe not the person that's running it, maybe, but maybe the person, but also the people that work. It's a very competitive, and they think that the other team is the enemy. And I think that we all lose with that concept. And then when I think people do try to bring in other people with other parties, you know, people, you can't do that. You can't have a Democratic chief of staff, or you can't have a Republican chief of staff. And the first chief of staff I had was a Republican, Donna Lucas. And then I had Daniel, who I remember shutting the door one day in the First Lady's office and said, "Who is we? Who's on our team here? And who are we here?" And because he was a Democrat, and then Holly Mann. But I think I learned a lot because I was, and then obviously Arnold had a Democratic chief of staff after a Republican chief of staff. And I think that's really healthy in a state that has so many declined estates and in a state that is leading. I think I'm really heartened. I think you go back and you look at Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan, or when I watched my uncle Ted Kennedy with his relationship with Orrin Hatch or John McCain. That's the only way anything is going to happen. It's not going to happen by blaming the other side. And there are really good people with an R next to their name, just as our people need to know there are really good people with D's next to their name. And I was not raised, I might add, in that environment. I think the first Republican I met was Arnold. And but it, you know, and I think people kind of, you know, we watch our own television now.
Sure.
We congregate with people who think like you and who talk like you and hold the same beliefs as you. So I try to watch Fox. I try to watch MSNBC. I try to surround myself with young people, old people who have different political opinions, because otherwise you're not really living in, you know, the way it is. But I do think, and maybe that's part of what's happening in California with open primaries and, you know, losing the D or the R, that we can look at the man or the woman. And I think that's one of the things we also say in this report, that every single person in here has the power of their vote. Don't give it away. Give it to a person who's talking about the issues that you are talking about and that you need. There is tremendous power in our voice and in our ballot box. That's why we have the system we have. So if Alzheimer's or caregiving is an issue for you, demand that the person you're voting for talk about it. If sick days or living wage or minimum wage is an issue for you, demand that that man or that woman speak to those issues. We have that right, and if we don't ask for it, I think as Doris would say, we're not going to get it. Right. And I would say also to women, 54% of the electorate, you know.
It's a lot.
Pull it together.
Well, yes. on that note,